Hello there, how are you? As I begin recording this video, it's actually 12 o'clock Sunday, Easter Sunday, as we commemorate the sufferings of the Christ and the sacrifice that he did for us. It is important for me to recognize that as I deliver today's message concerning the global warfare that we've already entered. By the way, I do believe we're in some sort of a third world war of some sort. There's a reconfiguration of powers globally. Some will emerge winners, some will emerge losers. The major players on a global scale obviously is Washington, that is pitching up itself against the Russian Chinese axis. But there's one thing that I've picked up in my spirit today concerning that is that Washington keeps on failing to learn from the British Empire. The British Empire is a dying empire for one purpose only, because of greed and failure to love the others. And I see the US Empire is doing the same thing, and I feel like in my spirit that's what the Lord is saying is really what is going to destroy them if they continue that path. You see, Washington likes to fight the Russians and the Chinese, and they compete with those people globally, including in Africa, since I focus mostly on Africa. Now, here's the problem: you cannot fight Russia and the Chinese in Africa and at the same time hate the Africans or desire the Africans never to succeed. For the US policy on Africa is to maintain, is to lock Africa into perennial poverty. So, but the policy of the Chinese and Russia on Africa is to be more benevolent to the Africans. So, if you're a superpower, you're in Washington, who do you think the Africans are going to align themselves with more? The ones that want to oppress them perpetually, or the ones that are seemingly helpful? I'm not going to judge the sincerity of Russia and the Chinese. Perhaps they're not sincere, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they are making bold moves that are aiding the development of African infrastructure, of African economies. It's really up to African leaders to take up the Russian and Chinese help to a level where it will upgrade their people, and also at the same time it's up to the African leaders to be corrupt. The Chinese and the Russians cannot stop Itim Nangako from being corrupt, but the Chinese and the Russians could be helpful to Itim Nangako to even develop Zimbabwe, and also the same to the rest of the African countries. But the point I'm driving there is that Washington is shooting itself on the foot, and it is sadly going the same way of the British Empire. The British Empire conquered the world, and in their conquering the world, they were mainly focused on enslaving their subjects. And for that reason, God judged them. It was a slow and painful judgment. It's still going on. That's why they're still declining. As I said before, that I don't believe 100 years from now there will be nothing called the Great Britain anymore. It probably would be something else. And the Americans are doing the very same era. You do not maintain superpower dominance by destroying other people or confusing them, or having this the policy in itself. It appears on face value, when you see them speaking good English, it appears as if America is this benevolent country that just wants to fight HIV AIDS in Africa, to fight malaria. They've got US aid, they've got all of those things. But undercover, deep down, the deep secrets of the CIO that have got to do assassinating good African leaders, and all sorts of crazy stuff happening, which God knows, of course. Okay, but you and I might not know, but God knows. Those are the things that make it difficult for any superpower to be sustained over decades or even over centuries. It is usually like a fire. I mean, like what can I say? it is like there's this word that I'm looking for. It's a bubble. Okay, it's essentially is a bubble superpower kind of thing, because it's fueled by hate, it's fueled by greed, it is fueled by domination, to oppress the others, and that oppression is what causes the others to arise, to figure out ways of destroying you. And by the time they arise, they might make friends with your enemies, which is the Chinese and the Russians. And in that brotherly love between take a look at the, the African coups happening in North Africa. All of those generals leading African countries, they have got this brotherhood with Vladimir Putin. Well, you may call it whatever you want to call it, but there is some level of cooperation and benevolence, though it might have started or may have started on a wrong footing in other areas, with Prigozhin's army doing some terrible things to some of the locals in North Africa. But that is just the beginnings of a future a relationship that can develop into something beautiful, that is something amazing, you know, with China also building up its infrastructure on it might build one on payment systems. I know that they are busy already with their currency, with the Chinese currency, making it more relevant. All of those things are slowly but surely aping out, or eroding American power and American dominance in finance and in politics, and gradually over time the superpower loses its grip. So this loss of this grip is not something that happens over 2 hours or 2 days. It happens over decades, because of decades of neglect, decades of an attitude of hate toward Black Africa and Black Caribbean, and all of those people that are thought to be lesser beings. So those groups, Africa and the Caribbean and South America, offer anybody who is a superpower like Russia and China, offer a path. So that gives a clear path of victory for the Russians and the Chinese against Washington. And by the way, it's nobody to blame. It's not me, it's not you, it's not Russia, it's not China, it's no one. It's Washington. They're failing to read history, to study history. We're seeing history repeating itself. The British Empire lost it. So perhaps in 100 years, Washington is still going to exist. America was still going to be a powerhouse financially, globally, even in politics. But they might be playing second fiddle to some other superpower somewhere. Just like the British still exist because of their allegiance or alliances with the United States. So that erosion of power, the lesson that we learn from the Christ is that the power of the Lord who dies for the sins of his people, who dies for the sins of Black Africa, in his resurrection this Sunday morning, also resurrects the dream of those that have put their faith and trust in him. And Africa has got an opportunity to arise and shine in spite of all the hatred and pain and sorrows that it is receiving from the global leaders. So putting our heart and trust upon the cross of the Lord, therefore, do we get our salvation. Which is a very interesting position, because it's not putting your trust on Britain, it's not putting your trust on America, it's not even putting your trust on China or Russia, but it's putting your trust on the cross of the Lord, the God of Israel. He, and him alone, and his son, the blood of his son, is able to transform communities, is able to transform people's hearts, and move to another dimension of excellence and glory that could not be understood by mere human beings. Because once the move of God is divine, I said once a political move becomes a divine move, all rules in the rule book that you know cease to work. All that, forget it. Forget that how you have studied the revolutions, how they actually come to fruition or to prosperity. Throw that away. Once it becomes divine, we're talking about Moses kind of stuff. We're talking about things like parting the Red Sea. Nobody can cross the Red Sea with the whole country, but Moses did, because it was a divine political move. The Israelites getting out of Egypt was a political move. It was a political revolution in all its shapes and forms. It was political, except that it was a divine political move. So when I'm talking about a divine political move in Zimbabwe, I'm talking about things that are going to scare you, because they are not in the natural rule book, and they cannot be explained by natural understanding and wisdom. They'll confuse you. All right. Just like the devil was confused when he thought, did you know that the crucifixion of Jesus Christ was a political matter? He was killed for politics. It wasn't about religion much, in as much to the, religion anyway is always used by politicians to advance political agendas. So they see Christ coming religiously and also as a political leader. They say, this guy is coming up with a new religion that can be used to get support of the people, and this guy can cause a revolution. So let us kill him so that we can destroy his political ambitions. That's what they thought. So they killed him, and they celebrated killing him, not knowing that his politics or his death itself becomes the sacrifice that atones for sins, global sins across all peoples and across all generations. And therefore, his political identity as Christ, the political savior, is not only for Jerusalem on that year 30, but it is now for anyone who believes and who desires to partake all of, not only Jerusalem but all over the world, and not only during that era but unto eternity. Had they known that, they were not going to crucify him. They were going to allow him to be the mayor of Jerusalem. By that time, at least they were going to avert the cross. But little did they know the power and the wisdom of the Almighty. It looked like foolishness when they were doing it, but to God it is life. And it's the same thing when I say that as we enter into a political change in Zimbabwe, and a divine political change for that matter, you need to be cognizant that it's not going to be natural. It's going to be foolishness. All right, to you or to the world, it's going to be foolishness. But to the Lord, it's going to be victory. Things that will transpire, things that will happen, will not make sense perhaps initially, but to the Lord, it is life. The Lord who is resurrected this Sunday, this morning, as I present to you the Lord Jesus who is resurrected, I do believe and I have faith that he is resurrecting with a new Zimbabwe, which is going to encompass a new spiritual awakening in the nation of Zimbabwe, such has never been seen before. And none of you would be able to comprehend really what God is doing and how he's doing it. And even I do not know. That's the power of having faith in these spiritual things. No one knows. If you claim to know, you are lying, because the devil also doesn't know. The demons also in hell are just watching to figuring out how is God gonna do it. They've closed all gaps that they can understand. And they have done in all their power. They are studying each and every single one of us to figure out how can they stop us. But whatever it is that they're doing, whatever the crucifixion that they're doing to us, it's actually leading to a resurrection of the Lord. The Lord will resurrect your dreams. The Lord will resurrect your struggles. I do not know what you're going through and how much you have struggled and how the enemy has been trying to pull you down. Let the enemy pull you down. Gladly accept the pulling down of the enemy, just like the Christ accepted the pulling down or the death of the cross. For he knew that the one who sent him is able to resurrect. I said, let the enemy kill your dream. Let the enemy kill your ideas. Let your enemy try to kill your passion. Let the enemy allow the enemy to do what the enemy wants to do. Let the enemy satisfy himself to the core. And after he is done and thinking that it is finished, the Lord, who is your resurrect, will begin therefore a work of resurrection, just like he is doing this morning to his son, who resurrects with all our dreams and ambitions. Happy Easter Sunday. See you later.